You're listening to Major Motion Problems, a podcast that explores the best and worst movies of all time to find out if they deserve their Oscar glory or Razzie infamy. I'm James.
And I'm Kris. Every episode, we pick a year at random and watch the Academy Award winner for Best Picture, along with that year's Golden Raspberry loser for Worst Picture.
Like every awards show, our podcast is completely biased and is run by so-called experts with not-so-hidden agendas. We will discuss, debate, and determine if the movie world was right in honoring or dishonoring these films.
This episode finds us in 2007. The Oscars called it for No Country for Old Men, showering the Coen brothers' existential neo-Western masterpiece with Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Supporting Haircut.
While the Razzies gave Worst Picture to I Know Who Killed Me, the film that brought an end to the Lindsay Lohan-assance, burying the teen idol in a shallow grave of torture porn and an even more torturous plot. But before we get into it, Kris, I think we need to shout out some of our loyal listeners because, believe it or not, we have them, and that's very exciting.
That's great.
Yes. So this is Major Motion Problems. Kris and James saying thank you to Casey and Steve in Chicago for listening to every episode so far. Disclosure, they are from my family. They think we're very smart, but completely wrong about some things as well. Steve thinks I talk over you, Kris. Sorry. But Casey thinks that you're too loud, so, it all balances it out in the end.
What? That doesn't make any sense. Why would she say that?
Oh, yes. If only it was a question of that and just not enthusiasm. But something I did want to tell you, when we were talking about just how much they've, their experience listening to the podcast, they say that they have watched the movies along with us as well. And so I thought that meant that they listened to the episode and then checked out the movies on their own. But actually what they've been doing, they've been watching the movies first and then listening to the podcast to find out, what our opinions are, which is a really, I think, by the way, the official way to participate in Major Motion Problems. However, what this means, though, is that you're going to see things like Burn Hollywood Burn absolutely free of context.
Right,
and
exactly.
I wish that on no one.
So usually movie podcasts, that is the structure of movie podcasts. You go in watching the movie and then they talk about the movie, right? But usually the experience is like somewhat curated, or there's like a theme, or they're excited to talk about the next movie. But ours is just like a random dice roll most of the time. So thank you to them for watching all these movies. But also I'm sorry about Color of Night. I'm sorry about Basic Instinct 2. I'm sorry about The Love Guru.
Well, good news is that they haven't disagreed with us on pretty much anything except for, shall we say it, $1 Million Baby, which, did you see the New York Times? Have you been reading the top 100 movies of the 21st century? I don't think $1 Million Baby ended up making the list, but it was on at least 3 separate lists from contributors to the list. So, as always, the ghost of Clint haunts us.
Yep, forevermore.
Good segue. In the top 10, I believe, of the New York Times list is this episode's Best Picture winner, No Country for Old Men. And I think that's a great way to start the episode, if you think so as well, of course.
I sure do.
No movie more mind-blowing.
Can't stop what's coming.
No movie more spellbinding.
You know how this is gonna turn out, don't you?
Nope.
I think you do.
And No Country for Old Men. Rated R. Now playing.
James, I have some good news and some bad news. Good news is that I found us a suitcase full of money, but the bad news is that a man with a vintage haircut is now chasing us. So if you don't mind, let's just get in your car and let's just drive for a while. Don't look at me, just drive. And
I'm driving. Why won't you tell me what this is about, Kris?
Well, while we're driving, let me read you a quote from Walter Kern's New York Times review of Cormac McCarthy's 2005 novel, No Country for Old Men. Like classic French cooking, the best American crime fiction relies on a limited number of simple ingredients, which may be why it's so popular in France. Too much temptation, too little wisdom, too many weak bad men, too few strong good ones, and spread over everything freedom. freedom, and space. In the same tradition of theater, vaudeville, and the craft of magic illusions, novels and short stories have been woven into the history of film since its very start. There's a good reason that Universal decided to reuse the iconic marketing graphics of the novel Jaws by Peter Benchley for the film's massive advertising campaign. Great stories are great stories that tend to stick with people, whether they're on the screen or the page. And boy, No Country for Old Men is a great story. Just as Walter Curran said in his review, this is a restrained tale set in the epicenter of freedom and space, namely the desert plains of West Texas in 1980. All of this was good enough for canceled producer Scott Rudin to go after the rights in 2005, just after the original novel was released, with Joel and Ethan Coen in mind to write and direct.
It just seemed interesting in a genre way, but also interesting because it kind of subverts the genre expectations too. It's kind of a chase, but the bad guy actually never catches up to the good guy.
I thought it was a very powerful story. And in the hands of the Coens, that story can be really powerful and deep.
According to a 2007 interview from The Guardian, the Coen brothers stopped work on a film adaptation of James Dickey's To the White Sea in order to pursue No Country for Old Men. If you read any of the trades reporting on the development and production of the film at the time, you'll probably stumble across a paragraph comparing Cormac McCarthy's style and tone to the work of the Coen brothers. And, in my opinion, all of it is absolutely spot on. After the film premiered at the 2007 Cannes Film Festival, Joel Coen revealed what attracted them to both No Country for Old Men and To the White Sea in an article for Time. There's something about it. There were echoes of it in No Country for Old Men that were quite interesting for us, because it was the idea of the physical work that somebody does that helps reveal who they are and is a part of the fiber of the story. Because you only saw this person in this movie making things and doing things in order to survive and to make his journey, and the fact that you were thrown back on that, as opposed to any dialogue, was interesting to us. I realize I haven't gotten into the story of No Country yet, but it's worth saying that the narrative of McCarthy's novel is so clear and so strong that the Coens didn't have to make too many changes in their screenplay adaptation, just a few cuts and small story revisions. McCarthy originally wrote No Country as a screenplay himself, and I think it's fair to say that it shows in the final product. In fact, it makes you wonder if it would have come out any different if he had written the screenplay instead of the Coens.
I think we both pretty much immediately thought, yeah, this is something we could do.
It was unusual in many ways in his books because they do tend to be much more digressive and voicey.
It actually seemed to me the one book of his that really could be a movie.
It's a chase story, so it's, it's kind of a movie story.
And so it was no surprise that the book actually, I discovered later, started out as a screenplay. So there was something about the plot or the pulpiness of it.
With a budget of $25 million from a partnership between Miramax and Paramount, No Country began filming in May of 2006 in both New Mexico and Texas. Right before the Coens started shooting, cinematographer Roger Deakins did a short interview with The Telegraph and described the director's methodical approach to pre-production. It's a fairly long process, but I think their scripts are very visual. They storyboard everything, and then we spend a long time scouting locations and thinking about the set design and stuff. I was really blown away the first time I worked with them on Barton Fink because there were only 6 or 8 shots that we'd done that weren't in the film. Otherwise, every shot was used and cut in exactly the way it was storyboarded. They are meticulous like that. While the pre-production of No Country could best be described as meticulous, I'd say that the casting could only be described as natural. And although Tommy Lee Jones, Javier Bardem, and Josh Brolin may feel like natural fits for the characters they play, apparently selecting them and getting them to commit took a whole lot of work behind the scenes. In my research for No Country, I've heard the same story over and over about how the Coens were originally more interested in who shot and who lit Josh Brolin's audition video over Josh Brolin himself.
I had already sent in an audition, and their response to it was, "Who lit it?" They didn't even respond to the actor in the audition. It was just well lit. So Jeez. I wasn't in the running. And then my agent somehow got Ethan Coen's phone number, and knowing they were having a lot of frustration finding this guy, and everybody wanted to do that role. And by the way, Heath Ledger was set up to do that role very early on and pulled out. Michael Cooper got Ethan Coen's phone number and said, just see him. Like, you haven't seen him in person. I know you saw a tape and all that. It's not the same. Everybody does tapes now. Nobody did tapes back then. and said, just see him. And they said, well, we think we're going to choose this other guy. Okay, have him come in, fine.
It's no surprise that the Coens were interested in who shot and lit Josh Brolin's audition tape, considering it was made by none other than Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez on the set of Grindhouse. So that's your fun movie and trivia fact for the day. Just as Brolin naturally fits the stoic character of West Texas hunter Llewellyn Moss, Tommy Lee Jones shines in his 4 millionth performance as a worn but principled officer of the law.
The big 4 million.
Big 4 million. He's done it. He won a free Subway sandwich. But really, if this movie has been remembered for anything, it's Javier Bardem as the chilling, bizarre hitman Anton Chigurh.
Call it, yes.
The story of No Country, much like the style, is minimal with a constant undercurrent of unforgiving reality. A drug deal gone bad in the stark landscape of West Texas sets off a chase to track down a suitcase full of money. In the lead is Brolin's Llewellyn Moss, a sharp survivalist who always knows how to cover his steps. That is, until he becomes aware of his second-place opponent, Anton Chigurh, a terrifying killer who uses a slaughterhouse cattle gun on his victims. But all of this is just far too shocking and sad to the third-place character of No Country, Sheriff Ed Tom Bell, an aging Texan who longs for simpler, more peaceful times.
Some of the old-time sheriffs never even wore a gun. A lot of folks find that hard to believe. Jim Scarborough never carried one. That's the younger Jim. Gaston Borkins wouldn't wear one up in Comanche County. I always like to hear about the old-timers. Never missed a chance to do so. You can't help but compare yourself against the old-timers. Can't help but wonder how they'd have operated these times.
Moss attempts to hide the suitcase full of cash, but is forced to flee to Mexico as a bounty hunter played by Woody Harrelson also closes in on them. Even Moss's plans to protect his wife Carla Jean and her mother go awry when Anton finally catches up to them. The quiet ending is full of death and destruction, punctuated by Sheriff Bell retelling 2 dreams to his wife, both open to wide interpretations on his feelings about comfort and loss. No Country for Old Men went on to win 4 Academy Awards. Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Supporting Actor, which went to Javier Bardem, despite his character's very strange haircut.
Thank you to the Coens for being crazy enough to think that I could do that and put one of the most horrible haircuts on history over my head. Thank you for really improving my work. I want to share this with the cast, with the great Tommy Lee Jones, with the great Josh Brolin, with the great Kelly MacDonald. And I want to dedicate this to my mother. I have to say this in Spanish. I'm sorry. Mamá, esto es para ti. Esto es para tus abuelos, para tus padres, Rafael y Matilde. Esto es por los cómicos de España que han traído como tú la dignidad y el orgullo a nuestro oficio.
James, if I'm not mistaken, the title No Country for Old Men is taken from the opening of William Butler Yeats' poem... Wait, where's the suitcase full of money? The suitcase full of money from the beginning of my framing device. Oh my God, did you leave it on top of the car? Oh my God, that was a lot of money.
Wait, I thought you were am I driving in your framing device? Or...
It doesn't matter who's driving in this framing oh, jeez. Well, I guess the good news is that we don't have to worry about a man with a vintage haircut chasing us anymore. You may as well take us back home and tell me what you thought of the 2007 film No Country for Old Men.
Yay. Oh, that was wonderful. Huh, what a trip. Do you remember the first time you saw this?
I do. I do. And it's strange. I always forget how old this movie is. Not that it's old, but it's like it's almost 20 years old now.
It's been a while, right? We're firmly in that phase where all these movies, we remember seeing them in theaters, or at least had the opportunity to see them in theaters.
There's that, and there's also the fact that look at the rest of the movies from 2007. I think Transformers was 2007. I know Who Killed Me was 2007. Like, there are no other movies like this in 2007. It feels like a movie out of time almost.
Well, a way to maybe kick off talking about what I think universally is agreed to be one of the Coen brothers' best movies, if not their best for some people. At the end of the day, as you had said a couple of times in your intro, it's a simple story told very well with just enough style to make it interesting. And I guess my relationship with the Coen brothers is I have always found their work very difficult to I guess, get emotionally engaged with. And it's many of their movies just leave a bad taste in my mouth. And I have to say, this was one of those movies the first time I saw it that left a bad taste in my mouth. Not because I thought it was bad or, poorly done or anything like that, but it's just like, it's so bleak. It's so unrelenting. The Turn movie for me, where I started to, I think, I don't know, maybe just start to meet the Coens on their level, was A Serious Man.
Oh my gosh. You're like, you're saying everything that's in my mind. Keep going, but keep going.
Okay, let's keep going. James really is a smart guy, and no, that's in your mind too.
Like, I was trying not to interrupt you, but as soon as you said A Serious Man, I'm like, keep going.
Well, it was a light bulb moment for me, because I think I haven't seen all their movies, so that to me, out of all the movies I have seen by them up to that point, that felt very personal. It felt connected to a greater emotion rather than we are master storytellers just putting on a show for you. And I do think No Country for Old Men is, for the most part, and why I think it's so effective for so many people, because you'll find people who don't care about the Coens or or movies in general, they will like this movie, because they are master storytellers and master showmen. However, after watching A Serious Man and enjoying a couple of, more recent Coen brothers, an easy one that a lot of people like, but I really do like it, Inside Llewyn Davis is another. I loved Buster Scruggs as well. Hail Caesar, even that had that same sort of like emotional connection that I had always been sort of searching for in their movies. Watching this again with the newfound appreciation for what they do, I do find it in there. And obviously it's in Tommy Lee Jones mourning the loss of civility or even just logic. I think that's the thing that he really is worried about losing, is like just the world making sense. And the things that happen in this movie, man, yes, they are real and they are grounded, but man, do they not make sense. In a sensible world, they would never happen. So the second watch for me was very effective, and I wouldn't say moving, because at the end of the day, this is an action story. This is like, you could, in another world, this is like a Brad Inglesby script, like Run All Night, or, something with Liam Neeson in it. And it's just a weird action movie where everyone has their thing to be memorable. But because it's the Coens, and I guess because it's Cormac McCarthy as well, I've never read the book, so I can't comment on, the translation, but it sounds like the adaptation is pretty spot on. Because it has all those people behind it, it takes familiar genre elements and elevates them to a new level. So I rambled on there for a moment, but how much did I speak from your mind?
Boy, you gave me so many things to respond to. And you know what? In my introduction, I didn't want to sound funny and goofy like I usually do. I wanted to sound smart about this movie, because this is a good movie, and there's even though it's, only made less than 20 years ago, there's a lot of history to it. It obviously has the history with the book. There's so many amazing people that worked on it. But yeah, I have the same sort of disconnect with the Coen brothers, with one glaring exception, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, which is The Hudsucker Proxy.
Yes.
And honestly, ever since I saw that as a kid, I've been like unwrapping my mind around the Coen brothers, and to be like, wait, how did those guys make this film and these films? They do stretch themselves. However, for homework, I watched Raising Arizona, Blood Simple, and obviously No Country. And gosh, I am just so sick of Texas and guns.
Motels, the predilection with, hourly rate rooms.
I've also spent 6 hours driving today. So 6 hours of driving plus watching 3 movies about Texas and guns and crime. I feel like I am a third Coen brother right now. I feel like I need to like steal something, or, I need to like chase someone down or something.
You are Josh Brolin. You have convinced yourself that you're Josh Brolin, and so listeners at home, Kris is coming back from a model train convention, and right now he's opened up the AC ducts in his home, and he's storing a prize a prize LG scale locomotive in the ducts so that the assassin chasing him can't find it. Do I have that right, Chris? Did I
Yep,
get that right?
Anton Chigurh is after my prized aristocrat G scale live steam locomotive. He wants it so badly. Okay, let me. You've given me so many things to respond to, and I am so glad that I agree with you on this film.
Yeah,
it sounds
yeah.
like, unless you pull some trick shot on me.
No, definitely not. It's a great movie. There's things about it that I do want to comment on that it's interesting. I noticed them the first time and they bothered me. And the second time around, by that time I had forgotten those things that had bothered me. So they got to bother me all over again. And I'm a more, I think, forgiving viewer these days.
Can you tell me? Can you tell Dr. Kris what bothered you about?
Tell Dr. Kris. Well, we're going to be jumping around a little bit, but Tommy Lee Jones doesn't do anything in this movie.
I thought I've spent so much time thinking. That's why I structured my story summary the way I did. First place is Llewellyn Moss. Second place is the villain. Third place, doing nothing, is Tommy Lee Jones.
But I in my head had like some memory of him at least engaging with one of the main other characters, and he doesn't. Woody Harrelson, who only appears in like 2 scenes, he does more in the movie than Tommy Lee Jones, and I'm sure that is obviously that's on purpose. That's the structure that says something about, I guess, where he's coming from and how he feels about the things that are happening off screen, but it just struck me. And that, I guess that dovetails into the second big thing, and I'm sure people smarter than us have talked about this a lot. Josh Brolin's death in this movie, spoilers for those who haven't seen, happens off screen. And
Correct.
it happens after a fade out as well. And it is one of the stranger cuts or transitions, I guess, and this is out by, this is where Tommy Lee Jones finally enters in the movie, and he's too late and he doesn't do anything because random cartel members caught up to Josh Brolin, not ones we've ever seen before or are connected to anyone else. They caught up to Josh Brolin before Javier Bardem did and before Tommy Lee Jones did, and they killed him off screen and left him dead in this motel where his wife and his mother-in-law were coming to meet him. And It is sort of like I guess I didn't care about this character too much. And what I mean is I wasn't like rooting for him to like get away with anything because he's a sleazeball too. He left a man to die to take this money.
Right.
And the only reason this whole thing happened is because he wakes up in the middle of the night and then decides to go bring the guy who was clearly on death's door water. Like, that's another thing that I was like, okay, sure. But I don't know. How do you feel about the fade out? And let's bring up fade outs again when we get to I Know Who Killed Me. Because who knew that the Coen brothers and Chris Siverton, the director of I Know Who Killed Me, were such a fan of that transition?
I do want to talk about Tommy Lee Jones and how he doesn't do anything. But let's talk about the fade out. I watched that moment at least 5 times because
Same.
It did kind of baffle me. And after a while, I realized, when we were in college and we were writing things that were not necessarily for other people, stuff just for ourselves, and we really want to push, we want to push away from conventions, you would come to scenes that are very traditional. Maybe someone dies or an argument, a scene we've all seen before, but then you try to subvert your way into it in an interesting way. Like, for example, in No Country, the way you learn that he's going back from Mexico into the United States is you just do that hard cut to the guy at the window saying, like, do you know who gets into the United States? And then it's the Coens leave it up to the audience to like process for 5 seconds, like, oh, okay, he's going back into the United States. But they're giving, a funny moment to open that scene instead of a wide shot of him stepping back across the border or something. Right, and so I think that's what they were trying to do with that. Was it successful? I don't know. I don't what is success in this film? Every scene.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I do feel it's thematically on point. It's all pointless, unpredictable, and makes no sense. And yet in a movie that is like pretty perfect when it comes to editing and like knowing when scenes start and when they end, and also doing something very impressive. You watch three characters all process information about the same thing differently, and it never gets boring. You know what I mean? Like 3 times we go back to that drug deal that went bad in the desert, and we already know what happens, after the first time we see it. And then we get to go through it with Javier Bardem, and then we get to go through it with Tommy Lee Jones. And each time there is just a little bit of new information in there that makes it feel like it's new. So I think the fade out is so shocking because, not even shocking, but almost baffling, because a different movie would have Josh Brolin say something really profound the moment before the fade out. Instead, he's just chilling by the pool and he turns down, the lady that was propositioning him.
Yep. I believe in the making of materials, they call her the beer siren, I believe.
Oh, those Coens. They
Continue.
Yeah, so you would make more of a moment, you'd give him more of a just like, I don't know, even a meaningful look off into the distance, like this is your character's goodbye. But instead, we fade out, and when we come back in, Tommy Lee Jones is approaching. We don't even know it's the motel yet. We see the cartel people who survived the shootout like peeling out, and then Tommy Lee Jones is just picking up the aftermath. The beer siren is screaming by the pool, goes into a motel room, and it takes a minute to even realize it's Josh Brolin, because you're like, there's no way that they just killed him off screen. But,
right.
So the fact that we're talking about it means probably that it accomplished literally everything that they had hoped for or wanted. I do wonder if, for such meticulous writers and, very, very thoughtful directors as the Coen brothers, if was that a moment they found in editing, or did they write that scene like fade out, fade in? It's something that I'm still thinking about to this moment.
If I'm not mistaken, I did not read the novel, but I did a lot of research on the novel, and I believe the chapters are divided by point of view. So that could have been, as I was going through the making of materials, I read in several different places, the way the Coens adapted this was basically they just had the book flat on a table.
Yeah, I saw that story. And so one turned the page while the other types. Oh, those Coens.
But what I'm saying is, who knows? Maybe that, I don't know. I should have just read the book to find out. But maybe the chapter with Josh Brolin's death is not told from Josh Brolin's point of view.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and I still wonder, though, if that is the best way to do that sort of thing.
No, probably not.
Because what I think what you just made me realize when you were talking about point of view chapters is what works in a book doesn't necessarily work in a movie. And I don't know. There's some people who would love that and probably think it's so shocking to see information like that, conveyed. I don't know. Maybe I was more emotionally invested in Josh Brolin than I thought. So anyway, we're still talking about it. You said that you had a lot to say about Tommy Lee Jones.
Yes. Do you mind if I'm going to make this point about Tommy Lee Jones, and I'm also going to make a point on what you just said, which is, I'm going to combine these together, which is a point about trust. Trust between the audience and whoever's writing the film. Mm-hmm. The Coens seem like they've written so much, and they're so confident with their material that if you give them a story where there's a third character who's pulling up this chase and he's not really doing anything except providing this profound commentary that gives the movie its actual meaning, it seems like the Coens have earned this trust with the audience that they will pay attention to what Tommy Lee Jones is saying, even if he has no effect on the story. Whereas if you had given Cormac McCarthy's novel to a studio head who gave it to a young writer or someone, they would, pull out on screenwriting or Save the Cat and be like, this Tommy Lee Jones character is not necessary to the story at all. I'm just going to rip him out. But by keeping him in the movie, it is a huge risk, but you're also relying on that trust that the rest of the movie is so gosh darn good that every time there's a quote unquote pointless moment, or they're subverting a moment like the fade out, it's just well, I just got to trust them, and hope it comes out at the end okay. That's how I felt with A Serious Man, because like I had all this trust built up with the Coen brothers. I know that goes outside of one movie, but I was just like, I trust them. And when the movie ended with the tornado, I kind of realized I don't trust them anymore. But
oh, I still trusted them. Talking about Tommy Lee Jones as a framing device and as sort of a commentator on the action, it's making me realize that they use that device a lot. The Big Lebowski has Sam Elliott, the cowboy, right? Like, come in and out and comment on the action. In Burn After Reading, which I think is the movie they made after this, right? Some of the funniest scenes in that are, I forget who it is, but they go to J.K. Simmons and like they are just explaining the plot of the movie to J.K. Simmons, and J.K. Simmons, does that monotone line delivery he does so well. Like, wait, what? Wait, so is he with? Oh, you mean, and it's so funny. It is so funny to hear someone explain the plot of the movie to another character because it's that ridiculous. Now, obviously, it's not played for humor here, but actually, it kind of is sometimes when when Tommy Lee Jones is in the diner reading the paper and his deputy is like coming to him and just giving him updates basically about stuff that is happening, elsewhere in the movie. He just sort of, has this perplexed look on his face and, Martha, more Sunnyside eggs or whatever the hell he says.
Yep. I love how he's trying to train this new guy and he's sort of like, and what does that mean? And what do these clues mean? It's great.
It is cool. It is cool to see him go through the crime scene of the drug deal and like immediately know like, multiple things happened here and they didn't all happen at the same time. So, you're talking about trust. Cormac McCarthy, the Coen brothers, they establish a character that clearly knows what they're doing and what they're talking about. And then they subvert the expectation that he's going to join the chase by just having him go right to the diner and pretty much never leave it until it's much, much too late.
It's almost a cop-out for the Coens because I imagine the novel is so close to this movie that it's like, what work did they actually... obviously, they did do a lot of work.
Well, but, the work is figuring out how to film this stuff and make it exciting because, okay, I'm saying that like this is a boring movie. This is one of the most tense, engrossing, just all-encompassing cinematic experiences that you can have. And you can tell because it's very visual, there's very little dialogue at times, and yet you always at least have a inkling of what each character is feeling and thinking. Especially Josh Brolin. I mean, like, this is a guy that clearly has no plan except I have to survive long enough to know that I'm probably safe.
Right.
Even though I'm never going to fully know that if I make this choice with my life, and he has. So, it's all, that I think is, the Coens... The Coens, if they didn't have too much to do in the screenwriting department, they definitely had plenty to do in the storyboarding, in the pacing, in the editing, in just, the blocking of these scenes. Like they do the whole motel thing where he has the two rooms and you don't know which one Javier Bardem's going to go into and which one, he's going to be able to access the briefcase of money. Like that's so complicated to do without dialogue. And I understood every moment of it.
Exactly. Who didn't have a lot of work to do on this movie? The composer, because
yes,
there is almost no music in this, and it is very, very effective. You are very tense and on edge almost the entire time.
That realization that there was no music in this, I remember. I think I saw this over a summer between semesters of college, and so I went with some high school, friends. And I hung out with some people that, I didn't really hang out too much with in high school. So going to see a movie with a movie snob, and I remember them commenting on like, there's no music. Why wasn't there any music? It was so strange. And yeah, when it's not there, you really notice it.
Yep. They were saving it all for music inspired by the movie No Country for Old Men. Because every time we touch, a slow and steady rush.
Dashboard confessional. We should, I think, talk about Javier Bardem and just like how iconic and amazing he is in this, and just everything he does, how terrifying he is. I obviously had never heard of him or seen him in anything before this.
Yeah.
And so he's never been anything but this character for me.
He's great. He's so great. Apparently his look was pulled almost entirely from a photograph from a man from the late 60s, I believe. So it was all pulled from reality, because I don't think there's much description of him in the book other than he has no sense of humor. And I don't want to come off as insensitive, but I believe it's implied that he is either Eastern European, or he's just they keep it very vague in all the making of, but they want to make it very clear that he is not from West Texas or the United States.
Oh yeah, no, he's not from this planet. Okay, he literally is an alien that came from another dimension and assumed what it thought a human was, and applied the logic of living that he thought that all humans had.
Yeah.
What do you think of, like, let's talk about the coin flip. This epic scene that you can show anyone, mainly because there's absolutely no violence in it, and yet it is one of the more terrifying sequences or exchanges of dialogue that you can find in any movie. The coin flip with the random gas station attendant. Like, in other hands, it's just so like, okay, yeah, we're in a movie. I get it. We have an eccentric killer. There is something very real about what's happening in that moment. It is crazy to me how just like grounded all this just batshit insane stuff is in this movie.
You often correctly blame me for my hyperfixation on things, but I think that moment and so many other moments in this movie are owed to the fact that this movie takes place in West Texas in 1980. And
yeah, sure.
Look, I know I talk about production design way too much, but in all the Criterion making of materials, they went to such great lengths to make it look like 1980, not just for the sake of, the cars and the clothes and everything, but to make you feel that you are truly alone in this really desolate, like, not primitive, but it is kind of a primitive time, because you're in you're in a different time, but you're also in West Texas. So it's even further back in time, because everyone there is, still living in probably the 60s or the 70s. It is a very stark, cold world that they've created. Even the border crossing that was specifically created for the movie to look like a border crossing from 1980. And it just...
That was the moment that reminded me. I was like, oh yeah, this doesn't take place anywhere before, like, 9/11, obviously, but maybe even like 1995. The idea that like people can just walk back and forth across the border with little to no hassle is it's a fantasy that no longer exists.
And to go back to your point, that scene in the gas station, the coin flip is terrifying, but all the questions leading up to it, I think, are even more terrifying. Like, that house back there, that's yours? Yeah.
Yeah.
West Texas, 1980. There's probably not a lot of people coming down this road. Like, all the questions that he's asking are just absolutely horrifying. And then the sound design of the crinkling bag when he puts it on the counter and it just slowly expands. And if you look at that scene, it's only a couple setups. It's not like they're, it's not like camera...
It's not like zooming around. There's no... is there a push-in? I think it's pretty much just like reverse shot.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's very, very simple. All the scenes like that are so terrifying.
It's fun to compare that scene because, like, not saying that the gas station attendant is asking to flip a coin for his life, but he does ask Anton there questions. Like, he asks just enough questions that it's like, mind your own business. And that's how he got into that. Later, when Javier Bardem, takes the chicken crate car, like he flags down, his car breaks down, flags down a guy to help him. And, he's asking that guy questions about airports, like where should he fly out of? Where's he trying to go? And I'm thinking like, oh, that guy's being helpful. He's going to forgive him because he has this like weird code of, not honor, but just like logic to why he does things, because that's why he follows the flip of the coin so closely. But then he kills that guy too.
Right.
So maybe not. That's what a psychopath does.
Exactly. There are so many great character actors in this movie. I want to bring up the name of one great character actor, Kathy Lampkin, the trailer park manager. She has one of the best. It seems like every time. Basically, this movie is just like a bunch of like great little scene exercises between two people, and like who has the power, and like where's the power shifting, and that's like the first scene where Anton Chigurh is like at a loss, like where does he work? I can't tell you that. Where does he work? I can't tell you that. Like she just like doesn't put up with any of his stuff.
Well, I'd say he's at work. Do you want to leave a message?
Where does he work?
I can't say.
Where does he work?
Sir, I ain't at liberty to give out no information about our residents.
Kelly MacDonald probably is the best scene in the movie with Javier Bardem. And apparently this was a change from the book. Carla Jean, the character, she was very scared, I think, in the book in her scene with Javier Bardem's character because she's about to die. It's all very obvious that it's coming to an end. But in the movie, she just tells him like this is not a choice. It's all up to you. She kind of sees through all of his nonsense, and
it's very affecting. It's a great moment. I love how that scene unfolded, and just cutting to the outside and Javier Bardem walking out and checking his boots for blood. That's all. Like it's just like heart. Like oh, whatever happened in there, whether he actually flipped the coin or just like he snapped, we'll never know. But like it did not end well for her. Question about that scene. So she says that she just buried her mother because she had cancer, which was set up earlier in the movie.
Right.
But like, what is the time? Like, how much time had passed at that point? Because it's like they were in the car and like moving when they get to the motel where, Josh Brolin dies. So, and I don't know. It just feels like that happens like a couple days later, that her mother just succumbed from cancer. And like, I don't know. I was a little confused about like how much time had passed between the last heinous violent act that we saw and Anton still like trying to find the money and like why it took him this long to catch up with her. I'm not sure. Did that bump you at all?
Great question. I could not resolve that in my head. I don't know. It's also confusing because I believe one scene ends with like what does Chigurh want with my mother or something, and then it cuts to Anton like entering a room with his, by popping a lock out of a door. Do you remember that cut?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So it's like almost implying that he's coming after her mother, and then it never happens. If anyone knows what happened and is listening to this podcast, please chime in.
For once, Kris and I both are a little bit in the dark, and we're going to find out that we completely misinterpreted.
Actually, you know what it is? Anton Chigurh was working for Jack Costello in The Departed the entire time, and that's
Jack Costello. Oh my
God! I messed up that joke. It was so funny.
It was so good.
Anyway, well, can I tell you one other thing?
You can tell me as much as you want.
Maybe I might cut this out, but so I went all in on the Criterion extras, and they're great. They're all really, really good, with one glaring exception.
Oh no!
And it's called something like the highly unauthorized No Country for Men documentary, and I started watching this thing. And it had
what?
And the only thing I can compare it to is so for Gremlins 2. They put together this promotional featurette that was like, it had a very funny tone, and it was basically like, the Gremlins are ruining the production, and Gizmo is a diva, behind the scenes.
Sure.
So, but that was done really fun and really, well, and it's charming. The tone of this unauthorized No Country for Old Men documentary is like the Coen brothers are abusive and the set is awful. And I'm wondering, like, where did this thing come from? Like, who thought this was funny? And then I started reading more. Josh Brolin made it, like, on the set.
Oh God.
It is I don't know how this ended up on the Criterion Extras. It is one of the worst, cringiest things I've ever seen.
Okay, so wait, is it cringy or is like the humor so dated? Like, because I can see a version of Josh Brolin like filming the Coen brothers like direct a scene and like muttering in the background like, yeah, there they are cracking the whip, you know, these two they're slave drivers, they're taskmasters, they're the worst, they're making us shoot long hours, you know, and like that is lame but harmless. Like how does it is it lame, or is it actually like the humor in it is like very cancelable by today's standards?
Even if the execution, even if Josh Brolin was hysterical and he pulled it off amazingly, you don't do that. You don't do that on a movie that's about brutal murders. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really
the
good
funny
point.
thing is you do that on a set of a comedy. You know, you do that you do it the other way around when you're working on a super serious crime drama. You say like, "Oh, we're just goofing around, blah blah blah. Oh, look at this fake blood. Oh, squib's going up, blah blah blah." You don't say this is a terrifying, horrifying set on this terrifying, horrifying movie.
Javier Bardem is like doing one of the gun stunts where he has to kick in a door and like shoot someone in the chest.
No offense
Josh Brolin's in the background saying like, "Oh, isn't this is horrifying."
Anyway, it was so strange, very very strange. I asked Criterion, why did you include this weird thing on your Blu-ray? But anyway, did you have any other last notes for No Country for Old Men?
I think that was a great analysis and wrap up. Fun to revisit this one. I'm interested to see where I'm gonna place it for our next ranking, which will be at least 9 episodes from now. But it's one of those ones that it's like, yep, I get why everyone loved this. I get why it's Best Picture. I get why people still talk about it. But I do wonder if there's something else out there that I have more of an emotional connection to.
Hudsucker Proxy. Proxy it's so corny and it's so over the top, and it's like a big corny 1930s musical comedy in its tone and style and story. But I love it so much, and it fills my heart with glee. It's hard to imagine the same people that made No Country for Old Men.
Talented boys, those Coen brothers.
America's critics agree the most exciting movie of the year has arrived.
Call it.
I know who killed me.
This episode's featured Razzie loser, I Know Who Killed Me, has a lot in common with the previously covered Color of Night.
Yes!
Okay, sorry. End of podcast. That's it, folks. All right. Both are stylish psychological thrillers that feature a marquee star navigating a labyrinth of questionable sex, violence, and choices in color correction. And although I Know Who Killed Me is a much smaller film with a much smaller budget, it's no less ambitious in its storytelling. I'm mentioning all this now because even though I don't think I Know Who Killed Me is a successful film, and I don't admire it the way I do Color of Night, I recognize the spirit of a scrappy filmmaking team in every frame. And although I guess this is the kind of movie that the Razzies were created to take down or whatever, I want to acknowledge as much as possible that this is essentially an indie film made by well-meaning and talented movie fans that tries to punch above its weight class with varying results.
Jennifer Toland's body was found this week, and we'd like to take a moment of silence. Now let's get out there and win this one for Jennifer Toland!
Any discussion of this film starts with reflecting on the journey of its star, Lindsay Lohan. Kris and I are children of her box office reign and both big fans, right? Yes, you are. Okay. From early hits like the remakes of The Parent Trap in 1998 and Freaky Friday in 2003, to her signature turn in Mean Girls in 2004, every role made the most of her expert comedic timing and natural charm. Then, things went off the rails, in the most Hollywood way possible. Despite good notices for her work in more mature movies like Gary Marshall's Georgia Rule and Robert Altman's final film, A Prairie Home Companion, Lowen's personal life fell apart due to family drama, reckless behavior, and addiction. She was hounded by the tabloids who fanned reputational flames that she was becoming unreliable and difficult on sets. Ultimately, the duality of her once on-screen, squeaky clean image and her off-screen party girl lifestyle came to a head with her starring role in I Know Who Killed Me.
Now, Lindsay Lohan news. She's required to appear in court tomorrow over that accident with a paparazzo. Right now, we've got Lindsay's new movie exclusive. Lindsay on the record about going from a bright-eyed young actress to starring as a stripper.
It's really hard getting on those poles. It's all upper body strength.
For her role in the thriller, I Know Who Killed Me, the star had to learn to pole dance in order to play her exotic alter ego.
It's not too often that people my age that I've noticed come across a really great psychological thriller.
I Know Who Killed Me is directed by Kris Siverston from a script by Jeffrey Hammond. Both are journeyman creatives, genre lovers, and from what I can tell from interviews on YouTube and Substack, very proud of their work here. And I truly do not mean that as a dig at all, seriously. That's the attitude it takes to make a movie and have a Hollywood career. And I think it's great that they're still touting this collaboration to this day, which is by far their biggest mainstream success.
Jeff had just created just such a cool story and such believable characters, and he was totally open to, all the ideas I brought to the table. Anytime I had an idea, he was totally willing to incorporate it, and he usually had an idea on top of my new idea that just made it, even better.
It's always interesting to see, what's in your head get realized on the screen, and he took what I put on the page and really just brought this incredible visual sense to it.
If you're interested in learning about the day-to-day making of the movie, I recommend Hammond's interview found on the Substack Top Shelf Lowbrow. It doesn't sound like it was that dramatic of a production, despite the media hounding Lowen, and although a DUI arrest prevented her from promoting the film or even attending its premiere, by all accounts, she was a total pro on set and gave the script her all. And she had her work cut out for her. The story. Teenager Aubrey Fleming lives an all-American life in an all-American town, juggling high school, piano lessons, a horny football player boyfriend, and her dreams of being a writer. Then she gets a much bigger problem. She's abducted by a serial killer, disappears for a few days, and when her body is found on the side of the road, she's a little different. First, she's missing a hand and a leg. Also, she claims that she isn't Aubrey Fleming, but Dakota Moss, a hard-living stripper who wants everyone to leave her alone. She is the dark mirror of sweet, virginal Aubrey, namely that she swears, smokes, and sexes. Aubrey's parents, her friends, and the FBI debate whether Dakota is telling the truth, and if she's possibly Aubrey's long-lost twin. Is this a Secret Parent Trap sequel? Or if this whole Dakota persona is just a trauma response ripped from Aubrey's short stories. But no one can explain the violent dreams or strange cuts that seem to appear out of nowhere on Aubrey/Dakota, except, of course, coast-to-coast host Art Bell, who, with his trademark cigarette in hand, educates us on the concept of stigmatic twins and wounds that mysteriously transfer between bodies.
I'm Art Bell, and these are the mysteries of the mind. The best documented case of stigmatic twins is that of Joseph K., 35, and his twin brother Jacob. Jacob K. was targeted for assassination on the night of December the 18th, 1944. The very same night, Jacob K. was gunned down. A deep puncture wound appeared in Joseph K.'s neck in the same spot. Lacking all explanation, authorities concluded that Joseph K.'s wound was self-inflicted. They failed, however, to address just how he could have known the precise location of his brother's mortal wound, or how both men happened to die at the same hour, miles apart.
This is usually where I say I don't want to spoil anything, but honestly, there's not too much to spoil. Turns out Aubrey and Dakota are two separate people, and Aubrey is still held captive by the serial killer, who is her creepy-ass piano teacher, and who I called was the killer from his creepy-ass appearance in, like, the first scene of the movie. The weird visions Dakota has been seeing are Aubrey crying out for help, and she manages to track down the killer, beat his ass, and dig Aubrey out of her shallow grave before the batteries on her robot leg and hand run out. As mentioned before, this is a low-budget movie trying to do high-budget things. It has an early HD video sheen to it, really overdoes it with symbolic color, and looks like a TV movie because of that. The acting, honestly, it's fine. It's all fine, including Lowen, although I wish she leaned a bit more into the split personality setup and gave us two completely different performances as Aubrey and Dakota. That's where my biggest disappointments with this movie are. I'd forgive the torture porn elements and cheap special effects if the filmmakers did more with the idea of Dakota posing as Aubrey to mess up her goody-good life while also figuring out if she's really who she says she is. By far the best and funniest scene in this movie is when Aubrey's dumbass boyfriend comes knocking to lose his V-card to Aubrey and gets his world rocked by Dakota instead, all while her robot leg charges in the bedside outlet nearby. So, overall, this is not a diamond in the rough for me, but for fans of this kind of movie, you can do worse. I'd probably be harder on it if I learned anything dirty about the production, but it's all pretty standard stuff. Like Color of Night, the best versions of these movies are some of my favorites, but the filmmakers bit off a bit more than they could chew, and coupled with the off-screen drama in Lowen's life, the Razzies had yet another easy target. In addition to Worst Picture, Director, and Screenplay, they once again have a lame Worst Screen Couple award for Lindsay Lohan and Lindsay Lohan, because get it, she plays two different people. I'm glad Lowen is doing much better these days and even will be appearing in a sequel to Freaky Friday soon. Is it possible that in the body-swapping antics, the characters fall into completely different movies too? What if Jamie Lee Curtis wakes up on the strip club catwalk of I Know Who Killed Me? Hey, I'd watch it.
I know I may look a little like this Aubrey chick, but I'm not her.
Then what should I call you?
My real name would be nice.
Sometimes people create alter egos to relay information that their primary personalities would never reveal.
Oh, what'd you think? What'd you think of I Know Who Killed Me, Kris?
I'm so sorry for interrupting you at the beginning and after you said Color of Night, and I said yes, but my gosh, this movie is so similar to Color of Night. You know what it feels like? It feels like, you know how there's like the musicals that like are rented out to high schools and it's like The Music Man, but for middle schools they have like The Music Man Junior.
Yes, yeah. Color of Night Junior.
This feels like what young adult Color of Night, you know what I mean? Like it feels like it's not quite as intense, but there were some really fun, ridiculous moments in this. I you know what? I like this movie. I
don't dislike this movie. It's not good by any means.
No.
But it's you dig a little bit into it and like the people who made it, and you just realize, oh, these are guys who had a shot to make something, and they really tried to, do something different, like do something like knowingly stylized. And it doesn't feel right to comment on the execution of it because, like, again, there's nothing like bad about the production of this movie. Like, even it sounds like Lindsay Lohan was easy to work with and like really poured herself into the role. She learned how to, pole dance, to do the not very well filmed strip club scenes.
Yeah, gosh, that is a boring opening. Sorry, continue.
Boring, and then also when we get back to it, you know what is good in the strip club though? Those like David Lynch, Terry Gilliam shots of like the madam that is like running,
she's smoking, dance.
Yeah. It's like with
I can't go out there.
There's a good bit of like VO there. It's I applied for a job as a hostess. Turned out it was to be an exotic dancer. It's like, oh well, thank God you had the skill set for all those things.
Yep, exactly. There's a lot. Yeah, I didn't realize. I did no research on this movie because I wanted you to inform me on where this movie came from. And as I was watching it, all I thought was like, this looks like an independent movie that just happened to get Lindsay Lohan. And so they shaped everything around her. Because clearly she is the biggest asset of this movie, right?
Of course. And they're catching her at a time, too, where she's she's not unknown. She isn't actually falling from grace yet, and unfortunately the timing of it would be she would fall from grace literally days before her movie actually comes out. And it's not like the movie is good enough to save her career or for people to say, oh, what could have been. But it is interesting. This came out the same year, I remember, as A Prairie Home Companion, which I saw in theaters only because I'm a Robert Altman stan. And I had to say, that's the only Altman movie I've seen in theaters. And, that I guess I technically maybe could have seen Gosford Park in theaters, but I wasn't aware of him then. So that was very special for me to see. I think that's the only time I've seen that movie. And Lindsay Lohan is also in that movie, and I remember her being really good in that. All her scenes are with Meryl Streep and Lily Tomlin, and she fits right in with them. So I
know we're talking about just Lindsay Lohan outside of the movie, but I loved her in Mean Girls.
Of course.
She's great.
She's wonderful.
You made a great point, which is I wish she had committed to separating the characters a little bit more.
Yes. Yeah.
Obviously, in a movie like this, if you committed very hard to a choice to separate the characters and the movie turned out bad, you would look exponentially crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But she does do a fine job in this movie. And do you mind if I tell you my absolute favorite performance moment and also story moment in this movie?
Please.
So at the end, I don't think you recounted this in your story summary, but at the end, Lindsay Lohan is about to discover her long lost twin inside a blue stained glass coffin that's been buried underground by the psychotic piano teacher that you mentioned.
Yes.
So we have stripper Lindsay Lohan digging down to find this coffin, right?
Right.
And so she looks through the glass and she discovers, oh my gosh, it's me and I'm breathing, but how am I going to break through this glass? And she looks at her robot hand, and in my head as I was watching the movie, I just said, awesome, awesome, awesome. This is so cool. This is like elite. This is like if James Cameron was watching this, this is how he thought of Alita Battle Angel, and like I need to make Alita Battle Angel. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
It's the Leo and Brad Pitt sitting up from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and pointing at the screen.
Exactly.
For James Cameron, like wait.
That is you have to admit, that is using the robot hand that was given to her because the murderer took her hand to smash open the coffin to rediscover her long lost twin. It's crazy, but like that's a pretty cool moment.
It is paying off something, I guess, that is set up earlier. Let's we can start to take the kid gloves off because I think we've been nice enough to this movie. All right, let's talk about the robot hand and the robot leg.
What about it? It's the coolest. They should have called the movie Robot Hands.
Robot Hand and Robot Leg. Okay. The scene where she is fitted for the prosthetics.
Well, this scene would make sense if the entire time you didn't know this movie took place in the year like 2064. Because like when you get to that scene in the movie, it's like, wait, does this take place like 5 minutes in the future? Like why are they so casual about this like amazing high-tech, hand that can just like plug into the wall to recharge and then connect to your nerves through like what, wirelessly?
That's amazing. It's amazing technology that also made me go like, wait, we're really doing this? We're just saying that this exists? Like, oh, okay. Now, on that note, after watching this movie, I went to Facebook Marketplace because I'm selling some stuff on there, and I'm going to text you a picture right now, Chris. Can you grab your phone? Because I want your visual. I want, obviously, listeners at home, you can't see what I'm texting Chris, but I want Chris to describe what he sees. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. I watched the movie, went to Facebook Marketplace, and saw this recommended to me.
Oh my gosh, silicone hand gloves, $300. They look just like the ones in the movie.
So for viewers who aren't true Casey and Steves and will not be watching I Know Who Killed Me, you see the skin put on the robot hand, and it looks like a Rubbermaid rubber glove that you would wear if you're washing your dishes. It just happens to be flesh colored. And I don't know if Google's listening or whoever's listening, but it's like, oh, they watched I Know Who Killed Me? Let's recommend him eerily lifelike rubber gloves that resemble human flesh.
That's hysterical. I mean, ever since I watched No Country for Old Men, I'm getting all these like cattle killer guns.
Mm-hmm, yes, and you've
look,
bought 3 of them now.
Yeah, no, what I'm all set on cattle killer guns. Like I have been for years. Like I don't need any more.
Do you not lock? You don't lock your door at home or to your car? You just open it with the pressurized. Yeah.
Yep, and I've gotten the same haircut since too. I've gone through a lot of changes since I saw New Country for Old Men and this movie. I have a robot arm now.
So, what to talk about with this movie? Oh, the fades. Okay, half the issue with this movie. Let's play a little game of Chris. You have the footage of I Know Who Killed Me. You cannot. You can only edit it. You cannot go back and reshoot anything. Maybe you can do a little bit of like ADR or like off-screen dialogue, but for the most part, you just have to cut what you have into a better movie. Do you know what will make this movie 30% better? If you remove the fade outs from every scene that open this movie. It's insane to me that they would allow, no producer just said like, hey, listen, all we're asking is for you to take these fade outs and do more cuts to other scenes, because these scenes, which honestly are not the most interesting or exciting, these opening scenes that are establishing the characters, they feel just so muted and like downtrodden, and then it's made worse by like whatever energy you have is zapped because they fade out. And I don't want to say they fade out at random times, but they fade out in a way that makes you think like, wait, did we learn like useful information from what we just watched? Like, right. Why did we see that? And I guess you could argue that there's like a dream logic to this, like fading in and out. But this movie is better when it's not operating in a dream logic and is actually about real people doing real things. So I guess Kris Siverton has something in common with the Coen brothers in that he loves a fade out. He just takes it to the absolute extreme.
You know, Ghosts of Mars, for some reason, also goes crazy with the fades. John Carpenter's terrible. I think it's from the 2000s. But
usually that's a sign that like the director was kicked out of the editing room and a producer came in and just was like patching things up. But it's very clearly a choice here. And it's very strange.
James, did you may not have missed it, but did you catch the subtle motif of blue roses in this movie?
Boy. Well, blue anything. So again, not trying to like. I don't want to even call it punching down. Like, these people made a movie, and for all intents and purposes, it is perfectly serviceable for video on demand or whatever, okay? And if you're a fan of horror stuff, I have seen worse horror stuff. The whole blue color motif thing, for viewers who won't watch the film, blue roses and just the color blue in general generally indicate that something bad is about to happen. And it's not exactly subtle when those things are going to happen. And yeah, so I don't know. What did you think of the color timing of this movie? It's very, very mini DV, Panasonic DVX, wouldn't you say?
Yes. All I thought was Transformers, which I also thought... Mm-hmm. All I thought about was Transformers, which I also think is 2007 and is also heavily, heavily color graded. You're right. This movie does look crazy. The whole thing looks like a really, really good episode of like network TV.
Holy shit. Okay, here's what I've written down right now. This is from my notes. Feels like a TV movie or a very special episode of Criminal Minds.
Exactly. All the scenes when they're standing around in the police station, like trying, you think she's lying? No, I think she's delusional. And he writes it out on the, the computer screen to be funny. Yep. all those scenes were like taken from a CBS show that airs, on Thursday nights. All of that.
And honestly, the story is very similar to that. I mean, this is like a CSI plot or like any sort of procedural that has light, supernatural elements. Were you familiar, speaking of the stigmatic twins or whatever the hell it is? First, shout out ask.com making an appearance.
Yes. Which is the successor to Ask Jeeves. This
right.
was so
same font, same logo.
Man, that brought back some good memories.
Okay, Kris, we can cut this out if it doesn't work, but do you want to do our bit about Ask Jeeves?
So when Ask Jeeves was turned into ask.com, where were we? What was going on?
We're just discussing. Oh, I remember. Off the 134 in Glendale, at I believe Ask.com's headquarters were there. So we saw Ask up there. You know, the logo for Ask.com up on the skyscraper, and we looked it up and saw that Jeeves has been removed from AskJeeves.com, and it's just Ask.com. And Kris said that when they delivered the news to him, Jeeves says, well, no one asked Jeeves what he thought about this matter.
It's just another excuse for me to do a funny voice.
It was very funny, all-time classic Kris bit. Maybe it'll make it into this episode or not. Okay, but we're getting off topic. After Ask.com leads her to looking up stigmata, parentheses, non-religion.
Yes.
It leads to a clip of Art Bell. Do you know who Art Bell is, Kris?
No, you mentioned that name earlier in this podcast. Who's Art Bell?
A real person. He's the creator of the radio show Coast to Coast, which still exists today. It's hosted by a different guy named George Norrie. Coast to Coast is one of the original, like, midnight, late night call-in shows where they talk about stuff like stigmatic twins or alien invasions and all sorts of other conspiracy stuff and pseudoscience. There was at one point something very charming and fun and interesting about just like weirdos finding each other on this bizarre radio show hosted by that guy, Art Bell. So the fact that they got Art Bell to deliver the exposition of what a stigmatic twin is was a nice touch for me. I appreciated it.
I realized that scene was trying to be intentionally a little bit funny because he's just like smoking and the cheesy graphics are behind him.
Right.
But it takes away from the moment because Lindsay Lohan is also smoking in that scene, if I recall.
Yeah, yes,
because,
you're so right. Yeah.
So,
it's like, does everyone smoke in this world?
Yeah, at that moment I was just thinking, like, is this just a pro-smoking movie? Like, why is everyone smoking in this movie?
No, that's just his thing. But yeah. So, I mean, what else to say about this movie? There's just like weird things.
Can we talk about the best comedy relief scene in the movie? You mentioned this, I believe, in your intro, where Lindsay Lohan, stripper Lindsay Lohan, and her boyfriend are going at it upstairs while the leg is charging. But do you remember what's happening downstairs as this is happening?
We cut down to her mom, played by Julia Ormond, who is forced to just listen to this woman who claims is not her daughter, even though she believes is her daughter, have very loud sex with her boyfriend. And she's down in the kitchen just like trying to... Like, she's not trying to plug her ears. She's just trying to will it to stop being so loud and to not happen. And she just starts scrubbing the counter. It's very funny. I mean, it goes on way too long, but like, it is a little bit of knowing sense of humor that I really did appreciate.
And there's whimsical music in the background as that's happening. It's nice to have a little bit of comedy in your stigmatic
twins, my friend. You know, me and you, we're stigmatic twins. You know how whenever you fall and break a tooth, I also fall and break a tooth. That's what happens.
That's what that is?
That's what that is, yes. You know, to comment on, like, I said before that was my favorite part of the movie, and it was. I wish that, like, it played more with that concept of, like, this is someone who is being told she is someone else. This is Lindsay Lohan's character as Dakota. She's being told she's this goody two-shoes character. She could use her still working arm and leg to impersonate her, to be her, to try to solve the mystery on her own. Now, obviously, that's what the whole stigmatic twin thing is to help her do that. But as someone who, I worked on a horror project last year that featured an element where the killer was pretty much able to walk around in broad daylight because no one would believe that that was the killer based on the setting and just, a couple other contextual things. And it was so much fun to just I had just so many ideas of like where to put this character and like how to just draw attention from the idea of the audience knows that that is the killer right there. And no one else would even begin to suspect that they're the killer, except for the main character who is screaming and, screaming her head off trying to expose the killer. So that to me, it's a different type of movie, but that to me is the most fun, and like that gets you the most good scenes. And it gets you stuff like this bizarre sex scene where you set up a character who is like just a dumb jock who just wants to, I bet he cares for his girlfriend. He's not a totally bad guy, but he's just a hormonal boy. And then he ends up losing his virginity to a one-armed, one-legged, hard-living stripper.
Yep.
Like that is playing with the premise to the extreme and should be applauded.
By the way, when your girlfriend thinks she's someone else, or when you think she thinks she's someone else, you shouldn't just lean in and try to kiss her to snap her out of it. That'll get you canceled in 2025.
I mean, on top of that, like maybe tell her, hey, I'm sorry that you lost your arm and leg and now have to wear future technology
right?
that has a rechargeable battery.
James, you know how I knew this was an independent movie?
How?
Because Lindsay Lohan is a super, super talented pianist, but her real passion is writing structured 3-act horror novels. That she clearly...
The shots of Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 index cards. I mean, it's like... Yes, I cringe at them too, but how else do you show that your main character is a writer? Like... they're young, they're full of hopes and dreams.
I know, but they're not just a talented writer, they're also a talented musician too.
And that's why she's targeted by the creepy ass piano teacher who, I'm sorry, that is an over-directed performance in the beginning. Like the fact that he's like, you must strive for perfection. It's like, yeah, I know he's going to be the killer. And if he's not the killer, he'll be a very meaningful red herring a little bit later.
Can you explain to me the meaning of the blue glass? Why was the villain making all the blue glass?
I actually have absolutely no idea why that is and why she's buried in a glass coffin when he killed everyone else. Like his MO apparently changed for just the final sequence.
Right.
I'm not asking questions about that part. Oh, sorry. Are you just going to question me now? Go ahead. Let me see what I can do.
Explain to me the villain and what was going on. I think I get half of it, but I just want to make sure I get it all correct. Do you understand what was going on with him?
I'm going to be honest. No, I don't. He gave a speech in the beginning about like, you have to choose to like dedicate yourself to beauty. That's during the piano lesson, but she wants to be a writer. And I don't know, that pissed him off for some reason. Also, he's killing other people as well, because remember the first girl who we know is dead is someone named Jennifer Toland, which is a clip that you heard earlier in my intro, which is also a very funny joke, like purposely funny scene where they're like, moment of silence for Jennifer Toland. This is at the football game. And then, all right, let's go win this one for Jennifer. That was very funny.
Yep.
I unfortunately, so this is a good segue. When I actually was prepared to get my knives out for this movie because torture porn, like you see Lindsay Lohan tortured with blades, dry ice. It's as hardcore as I remember like Saw and Hostel being around that time. And it's completely unnecessary. Like, it's not scary, it's just gross. And it actually makes the movie feel very cheap because it's like, oh, torture porn's really big right now. And believe it or not, to our younger listeners, there was a time where Kris and I would go to the movies and we would see some pretty effed up stuff. And it was just like, thank you, Eli Roth, for showing us Hostel on the big screen. Feels like there hasn't been a movie like that in a while. But yeah, I mean, were you kind of either like thrown into a bit of a like nostalgic feeling with the torture porn, or were you repulsed by it as much as I was?
I mean, if the intended effect was to repulse and horrify, it certainly did its job. That the torture scenes really kind of got to me. I don't know if you mentioned this yet. Graphic warning for anyone listening, but what does the killer use? Like dry ice, and he just straight up puts it on his killer's hands and like feet and things to like, and they show a lot of the skin coming off. And it is very graphic, and it is disturbing.
It's disturbing and graphic, but it's not like we know that this killer, like, that's what he does to all his victims. It literally feels like second unit footage. I mean, the whole movie feels like second unit footage. But it feels like they shot that afterwards because, there's another Saw coming out, and Hostel 2 is out, and it's making as much money as the first one, you know, like... We need some more, you know, intense stuff here. This is all to say that, like, the script is okay. Like, there's a version of the movie that leans more into the mystery elements, that leans more into the psychological elements, and, like, might be better because of it. That's you know, genre fans, they love that kind of thing. They want to see it, so I also understand the impulse to try to appeal to fans of this type of movie.
You know, on this podcast, I think you've started to develop something which, in my head, I'm starting to call the James defense, which is, I noticed this during Color of Night and also during our the ranking episode, where you sometimes, if like Color of Night is bad, you would say like, but what if Alfred Hitchcock directed it? But what if this were an Alfred Hitchcock film? And I imagined this film as an Alfred Hitchcock film. I'm like, oh yeah, this could totally work. I could totally imagine the last scene of like an Alfred Hitchcock movie with the coffin and the breaking of the glass and the prosthetic hand. So I'm going to call that the James defense. Whenever you see a bad movie and you're like, what if Alfred Hitchcock directed it? And you go,
okay.
oh yeah, I can
All right,
imagine.
This is specifically for this type of movie, okay? The psychological thrillers that have like a heady concept. And yeah, the themes of identity play in Alfred Hitchcock movies. I don't want to be seen as pretentious. I also just, I think we had a lot more fun kicking Color of Night around because it was made by a macho man and an absolutely crazy director man and a bunch of, you know, two horny screenwriters who need to take a cold shower. This feels like young people trying to do something really big and really give a lot, you know, really shock and entertain at the same time and be smart. And at the end of the day, not quite getting there. So, do you have anything else to say about I Know Who Killed Me?
The robot hand is so cool. I love the robot. As soon as that showed up, I was totally on board. They should have retitled this Robo Hand, and it would have done gangbusters.
Well, that can be for marketing next time. We need robot hands in stores by Christmas.
Yep, it's going to make an appearance in Freaky Friday. They're all going to have robot limbs.
I want to close I Know Who Killed Me by noting two things. One, the Wikipedia page for I Know Who Killed Me. Wikipedia is never my first source with any of my research for this, but I do eventually take a look and see what's there. Something tells me that the makers of the movie are editing the Wikipedia page, because according to it, it is. There's a whole, you know, what's the word I'm looking for here? A reassessment of this movie going on. And yeah, maybe people are. And I hope if you're looking for something in this world that you could do much worse than this. I did find the factoid, though, that from the director, Kris Siverton, who has made other movies, and it seems like he seems like a cool guy who's heavily involved in the horror scene. He says that he has a 3-hour cut of this movie. And Kris, if you're listening, do not release the 3-hour cut of this movie.
Wow, where do you think they put the extra time?
I think he said the procedural elements with like the FBI, and it's like you do not need to do that. In fact, release a 90-minute cut of this movie, taking out all the fade outs, and I bet you might have a better movie.
Yeah, wow, those procedural scenes. I wanted to point out the acting of everyone in that scene and how not very good it was. But now that I know that this is an independent film, I realized that this is a different grade of movie than I originally thought it was.
I mean, it was. I believe the script, production notes. The script was just one written by Jeff Hammond, who I believe at that time had left the industry, according to that interview I mentioned earlier. A manager got in touch with a production company who was looking to make somewhat low-budget horror fare, genre fare programmer movies like this, and it just came together really quickly, which is awesome. Like we all hoped for the same experience, and that it turns out to be, something really, really good.
How do you ask a writer who's left the industry to rewrite their work if it's not good enough? To like, hey, we got Lindsay Lohan on board.
Not. They all thought it was good enough. I mean, when you are trying to make low-budget horror fare programmer movies, like you're not doing character passes on a script like that. You're not, if it works well enough, and I think this story, is for what it is, works well enough, then it's like, just shoot the thing. Shoot the thing, and just as a note for all aspiring filmmakers, fade outs. Use them sparingly.
Hard disagree. Use them as much as possible.
I thought I was going to get the last word on my section of the movie, but okay, fine.
Look, the Coens use fade outs. You can use them too. Go nuts.
I have been trying to end I Know Who Killed Me. Okay, now awkwardly cut it off right here with the audio I'm going to send you.
Let's fade out right here. Fade out as we're talking. Fade out.
She's living inside a world she made up.
You'd let both of us die just to keep your secret?
You should be dead by now.
Before we wrap up, Kris and I wanted to say thank you to everyone who has been listening along so far and has been so encouraging and supportive. Our dream would be to make this pod even more interactive, so please hit us up. Kris, where can our wonderful community find us?
You can find us at Major Motion Problems on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And also, please feel free to email us at majormotionproblems@gmail.com.
Yeah, let's talk. We want to know your lists. We want to know your rankings. We want, I need people to back me up with Kris. Please back me up with Kris. Although, based on one of the great reels Kris made about Wild Wild West, I think I might be in the minority about that. So glad you found your people, Kris. That's our discussion on No Country for Old Men and I Know Who Killed Me. We end every episode of Major Motion Problems by randomly selecting our next set of best worst pictures. Kris and I are on the cutting edge of artificial intelligence, so let me just ask ChatGPT to pick a year between 1980 and the present. Actually, Kris, would you mind if I said between 1980 and 1990? I feel like we haven't done too many early best worst pictures.
Absolutely. If we have to review another movie from the 2000s, I'm going to go absolutely nuts.
Excellent. So pick a year between 1980 and 1990. It is selected 1986. Let's take a look at our list here. Okay. Okay. I'm going to executive decision say we are doing this. Yes. 1985, just a reminder, we've done that. That was Out of Africa and Rambo First Blood. 1986, at the 59th Academy Awards, the Best Picture winner was Platoon.
Hey!
Oliver Stone, baby.
Wow. That's your specialty.
I like Oliver Stone. I like him quite a bit. Why were we talking about Oliver Stone? Oh, because of his Instagram account and Forrest Gump. That's right.
Right. Hashtag Forrest Gump.
Hashtag Forrest Gump. Also, the other movies he liked in that were Amelia Perez and Disclosure.
Oh, Oliver.
Oh, Oliver. Okay, Kris, you're going to love, I think you're going to love, at the 7th Razzies, the worst picture was Howard the Duck.
Yes! Oh, fantastic! Gosh,
I've never seen Howard the Duck.
It's almost been overdone how much it's been talked about, but there's a lot in that movie that I don't think has been talked about. A few of my favorite actors are in it, and it's great.
Well, Kris, I think it's fair to say, because I covered worst picture this time and you had best picture this time, do you just want to flip? Do you want to take Howard the Duck and I'll take Platoon?
It's up to you. It's up to you.
I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Cool. I'm doing Platoon. You're doing Howard the Duck. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is there a George Lucas connection to Howard the Duck?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I know a lot about this already, but yes, George.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Good. You're meant to do this. You're meant to do this. And I as one of the very first books I read, I think it was over the pandemic. I think it came out over the pandemic. Oliver Stone's autobiography about his early years in Hollywood, Chasing the Light. It's great. I highly recommend it to everyone. And if you're interested in filmmaking or like having a career doing this, what it takes to be as successful and artistically acclaimed as him. It's just a great recounting of his early years, and I hope he keeps going and goes on into his crazier later years.
You know, right now it's sounding like in 2 days, if I send you a panic text message saying, give me Platoon, it sounds like you're not going to give it to me.
Well, we'll find out. Yeah, it's like, James, I woke up and
I realized I cannot talk about Howard the Duck. Yeah, I can't talk about it.
I can't do it. Don't make me do it, James. Well, we'll find out what sticks, as always, next time on Major Motion Problems.